On this week's episode of Make It with Calvin, we're going to talk about all this in front of me. It's actually got an interesting backstory. So, as some of you guys probably know by now, I am pretty big into On30 model trains, which are 1/48 scale trains running on HO scale track, approximately doing 30 to 36 inch narrow gauge trains. It's actually quite fun. I also belong to a model train club, the Yosemite Short Line, which is pretty much just a freelance model railroad group that's based off of a real life train that did run for a very short time. So one of the members of the club actually owns a custom furniture company, and it's really interesting because he's gracious enough to open up his shop space to us, let us use one of the buildings, has all kinds of woodworking equipment. And one day we were having a work day and I was helping him out with cutting out some pieces of this, which is actually corkboard material. It is a paper product on one side, and then it is cork, very thin sheet of cork on the top, track not included. So what happened is he had one of the spare pieces lying around, and I asked him, hey, is it cool if I have it? He goes, sure, take it. I was just going to throw the thing out. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. So I got to thinking it would be really interesting to actually try building a micro train layout on a piece of scrap material using track ties and other stuff that I had lying around. And when I didn't have lying around, I was going to try and build as cheaply as I could. So this segment right here actually was the very first one. You can tell I've done some scenery work on it, but the concept behind the layout was that this one piece here and also the other piece that I just showed could be operated as a train layout by themselves. Now I know you're saying, oh my gosh, there's like no room on either end for a rail car. That is actually very easily compensated by using what's called a cassette, which is just a short section of track that is removable that gives you the length and also allows you to switch things in and out. So the idea was you had a main line running here, then you had a siding here, then you had a switchback because of this, and then you had this, which is the passing siding. So by itself, this little piece right here has a bunch of switching action in it all of itself. So we were having another work day and I was thinking, gee, I wonder if I can get another piece of the stuff because we have scrap. Well, sure enough, we had to go cut some stuff. So I was able to get this piece cut as a mirror of the original. And it just so happens the two go together and you get this. So I'm going to be posting up a photo of the track plan, the dimensions, all that good stuff. But that is the short backstory on the layout. So this piece right here has already been roughly scenic. It's not perfect or anything like that. I did this one ahead of time and I'm going to do this one on camera, so I had some comparisons to show. But that is the basic backstory behind what I am jokingly calling the scraps and leftovers railway. Now, the theme for the railroad I'm thinking is slightly industrial, but it can have multiple uses. On the scenic module, I am currently working on some 3D printed building flats. This is just a test one that I made up. And the idea is I thought it would be interesting to actually model a wood pallet factory. Now, driving down to my parents' house, I usually take 101 from San Francisco, and out in the middle of who knows where, I think it's like Gonzales or something like that, you always drive by on the 101 this pallet factory that has this siding, and they get rail cars with wood and they probably ship out pallets via box cars. I was thinking, gee, that'd actually be a really interesting thing to model because I like modeling things that are not as common. So I'm thinking one of these industrial bays will be a pallet factory, and I'm thinking one or the other of these might actually be a machine shop. That'd be kind of interesting. Machine shop that gets in large castings and stuff via rail, ships the product out via rail, something like that. I don't know yet. It's just a cool thought that I had. So the concept behind the layout is on the scenic module here, we are going to have the building flat running along here. So, oops. We can have the pallet factory, machine shop, whatever else in here. Maybe have something here. It probably will just be a building. And then here's where things actually get cool on the second half. On this guy, what I'm thinking of doing is this is going to be running along some building flats. I might throw in an extra industry right here just so that there's some industry density. But I'm also going to kind of build in a view block right here. So it kind of hides the transition into a false factory front right here. And then this right here would run off to, say, a sawmill or something like that. So I have an area that that's hidden, or I can scenic, whatever I decide to do, that gives me the opportunity to actually switch cars in and out without it being super visible, or just make it an industry that's there. So here's where things get fun with switching. You have a rail car on this siding here, but the problem is the locomotive is in front. Well, you need to go over to the siding here, but you can't have the locomotive in front. So this is where things get fun. You run the locomotive down to pick up the rail car, then you run the locomotive off onto the cassette, back it up onto either the main or the passing. Still haven't figured that out yet. It's probably not super critical on this railroad. Then the locomotive runs around the rail car, which is sitting there. Then it recouples to it, runs down, then backs into the siding and pushes the car into the siding. Congratulations. You've just switched the rail car. So all of a sudden, what seems like a very simple move is actually something that's somewhat tricky. And this is actually not a bad thing when I say somewhat tricky. The reason why is all of a sudden it's things like that which really add to the operational complexity of the layout and make it a lot more exciting without just being like a spaghetti bowl of track and oh my gosh, it's a zoo. So I hope you guys enjoyed this intro video to the model train layout, and I'm going to be definitely doing some videos about buildings for it, which might or might not be 3D printed. Probably quite a lot of scenery related things, operational stuff, wiring, how I'm going to run the locomotives, all that stuff. So if you guys are interested, definitely feel free to drop a subscribe, and I'll see you later. I'll make it with Calvin, and I got some railroad working to do.